Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. Welcome to the monthly webinar for the Local Governments and Municipal Authorities Constituency towards COP30. My name is Yunus Serikan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy at ICLE, Local Governments for Sustainability, and I'm also delivering this or facilitating this webinars in my capacity as the focal point, the LGMA focal point to the UNFCCC on behalf of ICLE. So based on our previous practices, we are labeling a couple of seconds more to help all our participants to settle down. So we appreciate your patience. So we will be starting in 1 more minute to go. Um, so let's have all colleagues joining us. Good thing we are getting there. I can feel that we have reached to our usual, let's say, level of participation, and we have a packed agenda, therefore I don't want to lose too much time. So once again, this is Yunus Erikan. So before starting, we have a couple of housekeeping rules. So these sessions are recorded and uploaded on ICLE's YouTube channel, and you will also receive the links to the presentation afterwards. We run these webinars in different time zones. So for the Eastern and Western hemispheres. And depending on the agenda, we have a couple of partners and guests of the LGMA constituency. So for today's agenda, uh, as I said, it will be a packed agenda. We will have some basic static or regular information about who is LGMA. We will just go through our 100 days and also in between how we have reached from June. We will spend some time on the latest endorsement, national endorsements to town hall COPs, which I believe there is a very huge value. I will then invite my colleagues, both from ICLE Africa Secretary, but also Ula from GCOM, who will join us probably in the afternoon session because she's very likely in her hometown in the Pacific coast of the US. So we will hear from them what's the agenda expecting us in Addis Ababa. We wish to spend some time for the drafting groups, and I will try to make sure our colleagues are able to join us from the groups. This is to update each other. I will spend some time on the action agenda, and then at the end, we will have specific guests, especially from Bloomberg and UN Habitat, to take us through what we should expect in the local leaders forum in Rio, COP30 in Belém, including the climate ministerial, cities and regions hub, and possibly the Leaders Summit, which is connected to the Leaders Forum as well. So that's how we will run the show. As I said, we're expecting also our colleague Nel Kaur to join us, and the time when we're talking about Malaysia. So let's kick off. The first part I will run quick because according to the participant list, I'm also seeing that we have a number of colleagues familiar, but I know there are some new colleagues joining us. So we are the voice of subnationals in the UN climate process. For subnationals meaning towns, cities, and regions. Since '95, we are one of the initial constituencies to the UNFCCC. We influence the negotiations. We work with the champions for the action agenda. We support the presidency because every time they have another vision, and we want to make sure that it's complementary to each other in the previous years. And we are working with the friends, which is the countries who are supporting our proposals in the UNFCCC negotiations, so that they can table these discussions into the decisions, into the outcomes. We are living in we have completed the fourth phase of our engagement. Early 90s, we were recognized, but not involved because of the UNFCCC and Kyoto regime. Then on the way to Copenhagen, we kicked off our first global advocacy campaign to ensure recognition, engagement, and empowerment of local and regional governments. It was an ambitious ask for the Copenhagen, which was the time to design a new regime. Obviously, Copenhagen failed, and then we have even did not given up. We have even accelerated our work, and especially in the negotiations. towards Paris Agreement, we accelerated our efforts, and this was our first achievement in the Paris Agreement. In the preamble, the importance of all levels of governments are recognized. With this recognition, which was our first goal, we immediately rolled out inside the UNFCCC, outside the UNFCCC, inside the LGMA, outside LGMA, enormous number of mobilization. I don't want to go to details, but we have reached our next achievements in the Glasgow Climate Pact. The term multi-level is embedded into the decision text in the preamble, and then the stock take paragraph refers to the parties are urged for multi-level action, and then there's also several references on the adaptation, but additional outcomes came in Baku for the mitigation in urban spaces. So these are the main highlights, and we run these webinars so that we ensure coordination. But we also have our bulletins monthly, which is taking into account all the other information, including the links. So we also encourage you to subscribe to these ones. We have our web page, which carries out all the the updates from since 1995 onwards, but obviously, especially from COP21, it's much more active. We prepare our positions. We run through a consultation process, which you will hear more. This was the version in on the way to Baku, and in during COPs, our key mechanism is that in the blue zone, we ensure we have our own space, our own home, which is together with ICLE, by ICLE as the LGMA focal point and UN Habitat since 2023, 2022. And this space is also the moment where we engage, we define our negotiation strategies during these 2 full weeks of COP, but it's also an opportunity where we present showcase our actions. It's the multi-level action and urbanization pavilion, which is evolving to cities and regions hub in Belém, and we are grateful for all our partners over these years who support us. What are we expecting for COP30 to deliver to COP28 and COP29 outcomes, especially on commitments and, of course, the national commitments, which is formulated on the Cs, the National Determined Contributions. The next iteration will be the 3.0. Where are we now? We still are far away, but we know there is a certain recognition, but it could have been better. Every nation has the potential to improve their urban component of their NDCs. This is the latest data that you have seen from UN Habitat. Where are we now? The current status is that around 30 countries have submitted, which is less than 1/3 of the whole countries. Just 4 new came. These are particularly good for the moment. Around less than 50% have some good recognition of urban component and or multi-level action, especially our achievements like CHAMP, or even those who have not endorsed CHAMP, they have also made some good recognition. So we have a good solid base, but we are waiting for 150 more countries who are supposed to bring their results at the national level. Then these documents are adopted at the national level and then submitted to the UNFCCC. That's the reason why we are discussing that, how we can accelerate this process. The role of the presidents are important. This is the delegation we worked with in the past. There are still, Azerbaijan is still the official COP president, but as we get closer to the upcoming COP30, they are taking over. There is also a mission, and the Brazilian president has launched a number of innovative mechanisms like circles. Spatial envoys are involved. Philip Young is the one that we have been much more actively involved because he's responsible for urban solutions, but we also have other urban related or multi-level action related leaders, and we would like to work with them, but also we are aware there are regional envoys as well. Throughout the year, we run our activities so that we engage with the blue colored UN and UNFCCC agenda. So it's not just UNFCCC. We're engaged in UN Environment Assembly, Habitat Assembly, and HLPF, the SDGs, and the Secretary General's work. In the yellow ones, you see the countries are running their own process like G7, G20. We have unique mechanisms there or other processes like BRICS. And we have our own our own events, which are the ones that we convene, and we are the ones who lead the agenda. These are mainly the moments where we shape our activities and positions and make sure that we bring the right inputs to the process. On the way to June, we have launched our vision. Before Belém, in Belém, and beyond Belém is what we want to make change and what we want to introduce results. That was well received during the UN climate conference in Bonn. We have communicated this very solidly in numerous activities. Daring Cities was the host. We were more active in the first week. Together with the UNFCCC, we had closed door meetings with the CHAMP endorsers. We had convened their roundtables, but we have been involved in numerous negotiations and side events as well. What we have seen, that we have also heard, there is an action agenda coming up which has a stronger reference to urbanization. That gives us the moment to make sure that now we are in the last 100 days. And this has been communicated in the preparation, but officially launched last week in Kuala Lumpur. So the next 3 months is extremely valuable. As you have heard, the NDCs are not on track. The action agenda, the negotiations, we are not sure how it will be evolving. Therefore, we need a new momentum, and that's how we kicked off from Kuala Lumpur, and it's going through the rest of the agendas. You see, some of them are the UN-led initiatives or processes like Environment Ministers Forum or UN General Assembly. Some of them are led by us, climate action weeks, our events in Seoul, in Delhi, UN events in Geneva. So we want to make sure that each of them builds on each other so that then we can mobilize a strong voice that is brought by national governments with a diversity from global north and south, and that will give the presidency to the legitimacy to push for an active agenda for multi-level action and urbanization. We know they're very good for us, but the final decisions are not only in the hands of the presidency. Therefore, we have to have more countries to speak vocal and publicly and explicitly that they want to achieve COP30 with a legacy that comes with its own um, track for urbanization in a more systematic way. So we will run our LGMA activity, but we need national governments to help us. That brings us the value of national endorsements to our process. We know we have a strong champ mechanisms. Endorsers are also advancing. They were very vocal in Bonn, but now we are receiving additional contributions, and this is also encouraging us. These are the three examples that we achieved in the last couple of weeks. On the last days of Bonn, we have received from the Minister of Environment of South Africa a very strong endorsement to town hall COPs. Minister of Environment in every country is the main body, the main institution, government institution, who is responsible for the drafting of their NDC. Obviously, climate ministers do not necessarily always put urbanization or multi-level action at the priority, but therefore, working directly with ministers of environment are extremely more important, and South Africa has been a champion for us for years. And now the South African NDC has not been concluded yet. Just as early as the stage, they have acknowledged the town hall COPs to be a bridge to multi-level action and urbanization into their process. And we will hear more from our colleagues later on that things are moving forward. Another big example, which is this time another level of government, Minister of Housing. Ministers of Housing, of course, are very well aware of the new urban agenda, the importance of sustainable urban development, but they may not necessarily be involved in the climate agenda. And more importantly, they are not the one who drives the NDCs. Therefore, having ministers of urbanization or housing close to our agenda is extremely valuable so that we can have additional entry doors to the drafting of the national process. And we have been using this over the past 3 and 4 years. The important point that came this year, this last week, is the call from Malaysian Minister of Urban Housing. I will have another round in the next slide. So, and I'm expecting my colleague Neil Kaur from Kuala Lumpur to join us soon. If not, we will provide more information. But this is another example of how it's important to have different government agencies to be aware of our proposal and, even more importantly, embrace what we have been asking for. The importance of South Africa and Malaysia is also that they are leading countries of the global South. They are not endorsed, they have not endorsed CHAMP. This means that we have a diversity of countries bringing us. And the third example, which is impressive, that is at the highest level, um, Kiribati has been very actively involved with our islands work, and the mayor of Kiribati from South Tara was also in Dubai with us. But the town hall COP, Maneva town hall COP in Kiribati was extremely unique because the president of Kiribati himself was at the event. He was speaking with our leaders, ministers, local and regional governments, together with Kilga and Commonwealth Local Government Forum and Oceania. This was a unique model that we have elevated our discussion at the highest level. Of course, each of them have different resources and tools and priorities. You have seen South Africa, Malaysia, and Kiribati. Therefore, we have to make better use of all the outcomes. One of the most important one is the Kuala Lumpur Town Hall COP, resulting with a call to action. This was particularly voiced by the Minister of Housing, who is also the President of the UN Habitat Assembly. In his commitment, in his capacity as Malaysia, but also the President of the UN Habitat Assembly, he is calling for 5 main mechanisms, and that's exactly what we want. We need a new momentum to make a change in the negotiations. First, convening national editions of urban and climate ministerials so that we are not relying on it to Belém, but the countries at the national level are discussing on their NDCs and their urban components and multi-level action throughout Urban October. So we are hoping that this call will be resonated well in several countries. We will work with a number of them. So that's the most important outcome. Of course, town hall COPs is our mechanisms, and we are making sure that we are connecting climate action at all levels. We're running this in the 15 cities around the world, and more to come. And UN Habitat Assembly President is also welcoming and encouraging us to do so. This is a very valuable signal. Axis 4 urban agenda and the cities and regions hub, Malaysia is also endorsing this or embracing this. Malaysia is asking for an urban ministers of climate. This is unique. This is new. You may have seen, for example, ministers of finance are also running such a network. Obviously, the decisions of COPs are in the hands of the climate ministers, but other levels of ministers, if they are more committed and they're more following up the outcomes, it would be better for us to implement and deliver the results. And finally, they are also aligning with our expectations that a unique mechanism has to be embedded in the process so that we make this as an official agenda of the new era of climate action. I would like to stop here because Kata, is Neil in the call because he was planning to join us?
No, Neil is not in the call. We have
Okay.
Claudia and Leah, however.
Okay, Leah, would you like to, I mean, Leah from UN Habitat, would you like to come here? I also reserved another slide for COP30, but I think since Neil is not here, maybe it's time you can also comment on how this resonates in the UN Habitat community. And once again, it's great pleasure to welcome you back after a couple of months of break, which was a very well reason. And we are so happy that you are together both looking great, and then we are back again with your support into the process and energy. Leah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yunus, and thank you for this warm welcome back. Happy to be back. And yes, it was indeed, I don't know if I would call it a break, but definitely a break from that kind of work. So happy to maybe just I don't know what makes sense, Yunus, first talking about the roadmap to COP, a ministerial meeting, or just briefly on the town hall COPs. And maybe just to add, there was another event organized in Nairobi on town hall
Exactly, exactly.
last
Leah,
week.
Leah,
I got the
let's
chance to attend.
Leah, I assume you're able to join us for the full round, huh? This hour. Okay, let's keep it because we have a couple of more updates. When we come to the COP30 agenda, especially urban ministerial, maybe you can cover this. And obviously, yes, your point was good on the Nairobi, so things are moving forward. But make sure that you come back on the right moment. But let's proceed because we are in the pressure. So this is a slide which may not be too much readable, but it is a representation of what is expected in the first week of September in Addis Ababa. from 1st of September to 10th of September. I'm delighted that my colleague Claudia from ICLEI Africa is with us. Claudia, can you briefly summarize how we are engaged in these two connected but slightly separate events?
Yes, thank you so much, Eunice. Happy to be here, and hi everyone. So indeed, both of these events, the Climate Week and the Africa Climate Summit, are happening back to back in Addis, starting with the Climate Week. So there's two broad components to this. The first are the mandated events that are taking place, and that you could possibly see on the screen on the left. And these are taking place on the 1st and the 2nd of September, and again on the 5th and the 6th of September. And these include, for example, the fourth dialogue under the UAE Just Transition Work Program to start off with, which together with colleagues from C40, ICLEI is going to be present in and ensuring the voices and the perceptions of local governments are present. And the same kind of narrative will be taken forward in the preceding mandated sessions. This includes, for example, NDC, the NDC clinics, which are going to be available in both English and French on separate days, as well as various capacity building sessions on accessing finance, consultations around advancing matters related to COP30. So quite a lot is going to be happening in those mandated events, and those are invite-only activities. And then, as you can see on the screen, there is something termed the Implementation Forum, for those that aren't aware, that is taking place on the 3rd and the 4th of September. So this basically comprises of a number of sub-activities, as you can see on the calendar, but essentially what this forum is going to be looking at is specifically the iLab. So there's going to be an opportunity for representatives to present on innovative solutions that were basically requested via a submission process. So very great opportunity for those wanting to showcase innovations around, for example, energy transition, agriculture, sustainable cities, of course, which is very relevant to this particular topic. And ICLEI Africa in particular will be showcasing a solution there. And then, of course, importantly, there are going to be two roundtables as part of this implementation forum, a roundtable for business, but then also a subnational roundtable. So in particular, having contributions to that subnational roundtable will be quite pivotal. And I actually have a link to this just for those that are interested in terms of the concept note and the details around this subnational roundtable available on the UNFCCC's webpage for this Climate Week. And then maybe moving on to the Africa Climate Summit, which basically overlaps a little bit with some of the activities taking place with the Climate Week. But after the pre-event activities that are taking place around the 6th, 7th of September, the formal summit is going to be starting on the 8th of September. And ICLEI in particular is going to be involved in a number of side sessions that is going to showcase various aspects around energy, climate resilience and disaster risk reduction, as well as together with C40 and a number of other partners, there is going to be a main program opportunity focusing on resilience more generally, and that's taking place on the 9th of September. So for those that are attending the summit, please keep an eye out for those side sessions and that main session slot happening on the 9th of September. And then a number of other activities are kind of happening in the background for the summit. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'll pop my email in the chat if you want to attend any of the sessions, but also if you're attending, would be great to hear what you're all getting up to. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Claudia. I mean, it's an emerging agenda or evolving agenda. I think by next week we are able to circulate a standalone LGMA agenda in these couple of days, so that we can circulate into our colleagues. We have the upcoming August bulletin. I think it would be very good to have this list available in our homepage and also in the web bulletin. so that this really a very complex dynamic, and we can then highlight where specifically we are, including our list of delegation, governors, councillors, mayors as well. One point that I want to, 2 points I want to highlight. Among those topics of mandated events, these are the mandated events, meaning that they are in a workshop or conference format, but the results are synthesized by the Secretariat, approved by the parties, and they are feeding to the decisions at COP30. Among them, the most important one relevant for our country is the Mitigation Work Program, sixth dialogue on waste, including circularity. The last year it was focusing on cities and urban systems. We made a huge opportunity. This year we're also hoping that it will be a lot of discussions on our contributions. The importance of this group is becoming even more important because you may be aware the international negotiations on the plastics treaty failed in Geneva. And one of the main reasons were the connection to the climate or fossil fuels. So if there is no official process for the plastics production and waste management, and UNFCCC waste track would be even more important. So let's hope the things we were not able to achieve in Geneva or in the INC process, maybe we can take it up. And there, local governments are very well recognized, local and regional governments in the waste track. So let's hope that this will be important. Second, maybe you're aware, unfortunately, COP30 presidency is still struggling a lot with the logistics in Belém. There are a lot of calls, and among the it's not just the NGOs or the activists, but even the national governments are concerned with the availability of rooms, with the quality of rooms, accessibility, affordability. An African group has been the most vocal. Uh, Obviously, Brazil as the global south, they should make sure that one of their key partners are heard. And we know even the global north countries are suffering a lot. So let's hope by the time the Africa Climate Summit convenes, Brazil will be able to convince that everything will be okay. It may not be in the same way that we have expected in the past, COPs, because we were in a much different situation. But for sure, we would hope the Belém will still be the host for COP, and everybody will make their sacrifices. Everybody will make sure that there is a different mode of engagement. But it is important that the nations and the stakeholders like us are convened and adopt our decisions. So let's see how things will evolve. I know we are very, very stressed. So of the positions, the first 30 minutes are over. I just want to address that we are expecting our colleague from Bloomberg Philanthropies to join us in the last 15 minutes so that we will also hear from the forum. But now let's focus on our position. So let's remember, we have started this before Belém, in Belém, and beyond Belém. But obviously, when we turn into positions, we have to adjust it because it's more important about what we bring to the table, the negotiations table, how we communicate this to our governments who are preparing their national positions. So that we have made some slight adjustments. So we've split again into three, but the most important one is the two because these are the ones that will be discussed in Belém. Negotiation topics. These topics are the ones who have their official agendas or documents ready. There are draft decisions or processes. So our teams, LGMA colleagues, have been working on particularly on finance, loss and damage, adaptation, just transition, and mitigation. Each of them have met a couple of times. I will just check who will be here to report very briefly in each of them. The second point are the topics that do not have a negotiation track yet. And that's why we named them as enabling conditions. These are the topics which are either on the sidelines, but also coming to the table, especially our work on multi-level action and urbanization is also one of those because there's no agenda yet to discuss this except the action agenda. So we have to make sure there is this synergies because we are in very excited presidency wants to introduce to the negotiation outcomes. Therefore, we have to be ready. And what we are suggesting for each of our groups to define what is at stake. What is the situation on this topic on the climate agenda? Second, how this process is addressed in the UNFCCC, because it's possible that other UN processes may already be acting on it, but UNFCCC may be coming new to this or taking in a different perspective. Third, how can local governments constituency, local and regional governments constituency can contribute? What are the things we can offer, bring to the table? and what are our resources and good practices. That connects also to the action agenda, granular solutions. And finally, we will have an annex which will summarize what we have achieved this year at the national level. We'll have a discussion on the experience from champ endorsers, town hall COPs, some national transition plans, country problems, platforms for localizing finance. So we said at this moment, now, the next 15 minutes or so, we would like to hear from our partners who have made progress in all these topics. I know it may not be easy for us to all hear from all of them, but just want to make sure that there is a process going forward. So I'm just looking at our participant list, and please help me if any of our colleagues in the drafting groups are here and want to take the floor, so that you can raise your hand, and my colleague Kata can help us to offer you the platform so that you can update them. I will not wait for you to volunteer because it takes time, but I will start with, for example, Toby from Under2, who is working with Amelia from Global Covenant, who have been leading especially the multi-level action and urbanization inputs. Toby, are you ready to be the first one to report on our progress?
Yeah, happily. Eunice, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, very good.
I can do a quick update on the multi-level action and urbanization, and also a quick update on the climate finance position, as I've been drafting that over the last week since we met for the first time at the beginning of last week. But to start with, on multi-level governance, we're in a pretty good place because we met the first time back in, I think it was July. Back in May, and then had another meeting in Bonn, and then a third meeting just 2 weeks ago. And as Eunice says, there's no dedicated action or sort of space for this in the negotiations at this stage in COP30. But there is areas similar to how we've done in the past where we think it should be referenced and pointed to. So we're definitely pointing to those moments. We're also exploring the idea of a dedicated space for discussing this that could be initiated at COP30 as part of the Brazil presidency, given how sympathetic they are to this cause and their push for climate federalism themselves, something that we think would tie nicely with a potential Australian COP31 presidency, for instance. So there is quite a good forward trajectory potentially on that point. Keen to get your thoughts, Eunice, on what that would look like with Turkey, actually, not a conversation we've had. The final area that we're mentioning on in the position is more around the action agenda, and how that we can use this momentum in the action agenda to and their specific reference to multi-level governance to really take this forward, both inside the negotiations, but also alongside with potentially more accountability and more spaces for implementing and actually designing and implementing national plans in a multi-level governance approach with strong urbanization components. On the finance front, so far we've been building the draft technical statement very much from the premise of the intervention that was given at Bonn from Carlos, which provided some really strong foundational pillars of where the conversation is at this moment in time and how we can take that forward. So talking about the need to institutionalize multi-level governance within country platforms, talking about the need to empower subnational public development banks for climate finance intermediation, talking about the need to strengthen domestic policies for being able to implement climate projects at the subnational level, and a push for stronger regulatory innovation. This is a bit less developed at this stage, and we really welcome anyone on the call to reach out and get involved if they have ideas about where this can potentially land in different areas. But it is beginning to take shape.
Yeah. Great, Toby. Thanks. I also see Carlos here, so he can complement if needed. What I see here now in the list, Teresa from the Committee of the Regions, who have been active lead of the adaptation group. I also see Pablo, who has been leading our work and the loss and damage. I don't see colleagues from the Just Transition, but there will be a statement. There's already a statement ready, and there will be intervention in Addis. So let's start with Teresa, and then to Pablo. Teresa, who wants to take the floor first?
Yes, I can go ahead. Thank you, Yunus, and hello, everyone. So for adaptation, we are pretty much done with the first draft, which is already ready for the steering committee to go through it and ensure consistency with other negotiation tracks. We had our first meeting on the 5th of August. We opened the consultation of the draft until the 15th of August, and we finalized a couple of days ago. We have included 4 main priorities. So we included messages on the Belém work program on indicators, including a few indicators we would like to see in the final list. We also included messages on the national adaptation plans and the need for this to include subnationals in their design and implementation, and also to include capacity building and funding mechanisms for subnationals. There are strong messages on adaptation finance as well. And finally, on the Baku adaptation roadmap. On this last, on the roadmap, we don't have a clear idea of what parties the UNFCCC and including ourselves want. So we very much welcome ideas from LGMA partners to see how we can shape the roadmap in a way that supports subnational action. So that's pretty much it. If you have any other suggestions, happy to
Teresa,
collaborate with you all.
just 2 points from my side. Were you able to connect to Pilar from Argentina and Eva Jackson from ICLE Canada?
Yes, so Pilar was in our meeting and she provided inputs to our draft. With Eva, we didn't manage, and this ideally we would seek your help on this because she's part of the expert group. So
exactly. So it's good. Okay, that's good. Do you want to also talk about the European Town Hall COP on the 15th of October? It is part of our LGMA 100 days to go to COP30. I hope I didn't put you in a difficult situation, because I know you're still in the drafting of this process, but I took the liberty of your position paper and processes. Any updates from your side is more than welcome.
No worries. So indeed, it's pretty much in the making. It's a European town hall event we want to organize during our EU Regions Week. I think it's familiar to many of you. It will take place on the 15th of October from 2:30 p.m. until 4. We will have 2 sessions. The first one dedicated to the EU. So we want to bring the European Commission, European Parliament, and EU subnationals to talk about the EU priorities towards COP30. And then another session gathering subnational leaders from LGMA partners. So the idea is to get together before COP. It's also happening during the pre-COP in Brasilia, so we think it's a very good timing. And then maybe have a moment to kind of launch the LGMA position paper as well at the European level after it's launched at the global level in New York.
Excellent. Great. And of course, we need European Union there, and this is still in the making process. I know Gökçen is also here. So, and just to give you an example, we have Australian town hall COPs. We have US, we have islands, Kiribati and South, and now Europe. So every continent, we have this mobilization going on. And that's a brilliant demonstration how much we are expanding our outreach and impact. Thanks a lot, and great hearings from you. Pablo, any points you want to raise on loss and damage?
Yes, thank you, Yunus. So we have managed to meet only once so far, and we discussed a little bit what the framing of the paper is and what's looking towards. I mean, what it is looking towards advocating to. We are focusing mostly in telling our advocacy process throughout our interaction with the board of the Fund for Responding to Loss and Damage, and the risks that we have there in not becoming active observers potentially, and our strategy thereon after. Loss and damage is becoming a rapidly important topic to discuss for local and regional governments, specifically when we are surpassing the limits of adaptation, and thus how local and regional governments may be able to respond to the new needs that arise in a post 2-degree world are things that are important to start raising and thinking of. So that's mainly our framing, and happy to start circulating it once colleagues from C40 come back to office in the following week.
Yeah. So, colleagues, I can comment on the evolving concept. I see Kobe here. Our colleague Ingrid, for example, is in the ASEAN Biodiversity Conference, but definitely there is also some mobilization. What is going on actually is that, of course, we put ourselves a very ambitious timeline, and August is usually the moment where most of our colleagues are out. So therefore, we are suggesting another call on the 27th of August next week, enabling our colleagues to consolidate a bit further on different topics, so that we can then decide which ones will really be mature enough to put on the table. So we are also aware not every topic is as equally in the same way of maturation in terms of inputs and proposals. But let's say that this is work in progress, and the timeline once again. We would like to have this consultation during Addis, and that before the New York City Climate Week kicks off, we want to conclude and then announce that this is now open for consultation endorsement. Sorry, so it's not finished yet. It's work in progress, and we are not absolutely ready there to the level we wish to. Therefore, a lot of work has to be done. We have a shared file on our tracker. I'm not sharing it here because these webinars are accessible for other partners as well. So we have to keep a bit our privacy. But those who are involved, Kata, if you can type the LGMA email address so that we can try to bring them to the respective group. I want to continue because there's more topics to be discussed. But if there's anything, well, colleagues can come back to this agenda again. So there are now that I want to spend some time on the action agenda before we go to the COP30 forum. Action agenda is evolving in a very dynamic way. However, it has its own new rules and procedures. First of all, these are the complete 30 activation groups, which means there are 6 axes, but presidency is encouraging or building the whole process that each of these numbers from 1 to 30 have their own processes. And these own processes, first of all, you can see that we have number 4 axis, which is very strong on multi-level and urbanization. But there are others that we have relevant, and that there's a lot of things that we can contribute. So what is expected that these activation groups will have some initiatives, which is linked to NASCA, some solutions, and then some plans to accelerate, which is not easy. It's not an easy game, especially when you're in the very difficult moments towards COP30. There is a new mechanism called Secretariat and plus members. Secretariat is a bit diverse. It's much more than the Marrakesh Partnership process, which is giving a bit more chance because the workload is too high. Even this is not helping because there are a lot of groups that sometimes there is a need for a coordination between each of them, and the groups are not necessarily talking to each other. So that's another part of the story. But there is strong LGMA in the axis 4, but in other areas we also have this. In our COP30 tracker sheet, we have inserted what is available now. It's not over yet, but it's getting a bit more advanced. We have a colleague, Casimir Legrand, who is now joined the champions team, who is also helping us from C40, which will be instrumental to help us. We know UNEP Cities Unit, we know UN Habitat Climate Team is involved, ICLE is involved in the Secretariat in some of them. So we want to make sure that all our resources are feeding into the right process. When we go to this action agenda, there's also a moment where this has to be now overlapped with the Marrakesh Partnership, which has its own track. And the deadline for comments was Monday. Obviously, we did not make this time. I know some colleagues, like under 2, have been working on it. What we would like to propose is it's not a response to the MPGCA agenda, but it's really where we see this new model being evolved into. In terms of 3 main highlights in this limited time frame, what we can think about is that we should ask for a structured and year-round engagement, so that it's not just only for COP, but it also connects all these climate weeks, the UN talks in Bonn, the UN agency discussions outside UNFCCC. We cannot afford to keep all of them in separate tracks. Even if for the Addis Ababa, we have been using at least 4 different registration process. These kind of things is not helping us. And more importantly, these all should connect to the NDCs 3.0. That is one of the biggest weaknesses of this process, and we have to be vocal about it. Second point we can talk about is that for each track, they want to have subnationals, but we don't have a mechanism. There is no recognition of LGMA, and each of them sometimes have their own networks, and it's also, again, not helping us because all these constituencies, the cities and regions are coming back to us saying that what is going on, we don't understand, what is expected from us, and these challenges can be sorted out if we are officially part of the recognition of the process as part. And third, these initiatives cannot continue forever if there is no financial and technical resources. We know presidency is mobilizing funds for their own machinery or high-level champions, but if we really want to have action on the ground, these recognized initiatives or their partners should be supported in a more systematic way. Otherwise, we are facing the danger that we are going through a talk shop and people are losing their credibility, and this is not helping us. I want to keep it here because I was informed that our colleague Liv from Bloomberg would be joining us by the moment of now. Kata, just let's check. Have we received Liv?
She's here with us.
Excellent. Liv, I'm not sure how much you were able to follow our discussions in the first 45 minutes, but we're now ready to hear from you. Afterwards, we will also invite Leah to speak about the agenda in Belém. But now we are eager to hear from you. Feel free to turn on your camera so that we can see you. But if not, I already see your camera is on. Great. Liv, thanks a lot, especially for joining us at a short notice, and especially the leadership from Bloomberg in convening this agenda. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Would it be helpful if I could share my screen?
Sure. Let me, Kata, can you help us? I'm stopping my screen.
Yeah, Liv, you can go ahead now.
Thank you. Great. So hopefully everyone can see that.
Yes.
A bit of background, I'm sure everyone knows, but the Local Leaders Forum is happening in Rio just ahead of COP30, and is really a continuation of the strong leadership that Bloomberg Philanthropies and our partners have been taking and making subnationals a core part of COP agendas. So for this year, our partnership with COP30 overall is based on these kind of 4 key pillars, and these are the real themes that we're thinking about while we work with the COP30 presidency, and that final one there on catalyzing city, state and subnational action is incredibly important to us, hence the Local Leaders Forum, which is being co-delivered with the COP30 presidency and is an official COP30 presidency side event. We have a long history of elevating cities, states and regions on the global stage, and we see COP30 as a real opportunity to take this to the next level. You know, we've been bringing delegations of mayors and regional leaders to different COP events and other international moments throughout the years, but COP30 having our own kind of space before the summit to really align with the action agenda and allow subnational leaders to work with each other, to collaborate, to launch something from the road to kind of Rio to Belém. We see as incredibly valuable. So in case this hasn't been shared with people before, this is very provisionally, and we ask, you know, we're sharing it with everyone here as trusted partners, but we ask for this to not be shared widely. This is our provisional agenda. And this doesn't, you know, capture that there's going to be smaller events and maybe, you know, some receptions and other interesting smaller sessions going on. But the idea is that there will be a World Mayors Summit delivered on the Monday and the Tuesday. On the Tuesday, there will also be a States and Regions Summit, which we're delivering with Under 2 and Regions 4. There are also some smaller regional summits that will probably be dotted throughout the day. At the minute, we're thinking of a Brazil-focused one with FMP, potentially a Chinese-focused one, and then a United States-focused one with America's All In. And then on the final day, there will be this CHAMP high-level political dialogue in the morning, and the kind of what the summit will all be leading up to is this high-level closing plenary where we're hoping for a joint statement to be delivered. And at the moment, the thinking is that this would be a joint statement from kind of all cities, states, and regional leaders to say what they want to take forward to COP30, as well as the Local Leaders Awards, which hopefully people in this group have been made aware of. And then we will have a small delegation traveling to Belém, and our planning around that is still really being figured out. But we want to make sure that the Local Leaders Forum is not just a thing in itself, but that's why, you know, we wanted to work so closely and partner with the COP30 presidency on it. It's why we've done it at this time. We really want it to feed in to COP30. And again, this is very provisional and very much draft, and we ask for it to not be shared. But this is overall kind of the example, the outcomes that we're looking for, and that we would like our partners and our cities and states and regions to kind of give them a platform to deliver. The specifics of the agenda, what will be announced, what is being delivered, is being worked out really closely with our partners like C40, ICLEI, Under 2, Regions 4, and we will continue to kind of share information as those develop. But we're very excited about this. We think it's going to be great, and we're very happy to be able to give the opportunity to the subnationals ahead of COP30.
Yeah, Liv, thanks a lot for this valuable and very, very important updates. Obviously, as we have heard, it's work in progress, but it's good to hear latest outcome or latest efforts. So, and now, and I'm sure my colleagues, if they have problems either in the Q&A, but also later on, will reach you. In the afternoon, we will also hear from Megan. So that's good that we are able to continue to stay in touch. And once again, congratulations. Leah, maybe now I gave back you the floor. I don't know whether you have anything to show from your screen or how you want to. Okay, verbally. Liv, by the way, if you wish, you can send with us your slides so that we can incorporate to the one file when it's downloaded. It's easier. And we all know that this is work in progress, so no one should say that this is concrete and final. So this is, I think everybody acknowledges this. Leah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and hi again from my side. Really great to be back and be with you. I mean, I'll just talk to this, and I think you might have heard about all of this in previous webinars. So this is just a reminder and acknowledging that we're short on time, and we'd love to hear from you. So as a reminder, at COP30, UN Habitat, Ministry of Cities, COP30 presidency, and many partners are planning the 4th ministerial meeting. Similarly to what we've planned or what we had at COP29, this is going to be structured in 4 roundtables and a high-level closing plenary. 4 roundtables being 1 on housing and informality in an urbanizing world, the second one on cities and research and innovation, third one on financing the implementations of NDCs, and the 4th one on nature and cities, considering that this is an Amazonian COP. All of this will be put together with a closing plenary, where the aim is very much to celebrate the urban roadmap. So everything that we've been talking here about in this webinar, celebrating this at the global stage, making sure we can reflect on progress on the NDCs. How are they containing references to CHAMP? How are they containing the urban content? How are they linking with any national strategies that they might have? celebrating and making the link to other processes, but then also calling for a stronger integration of cities and regions and the new urban agenda into these UNFCCC processes, highlighting the opportunities that exist that I know also some colleagues here on this call and beyond are very strongly working on. Maybe one big call to action and kind ask from everybody here is this ministerial meeting, we are trying to, how do I say that, reframe it a little bit in the sense of we want to make sure that this is framed around communities of thought leadership. So really bringing together ministers, mayors, leaders that have something very specific to share, a best practice, an example, in line with this action-oriented and implementation-oriented COP and call by the COP30 presidency. So we will be circulating through Yunus and through the colleagues a list with a call for suggestions of speakers that can fit that bill. So really speakers that have something to share that they've done that can inspire action and that can be scaled up. Probably we'll be curating the meetings around mini panels, both for the roundtables and for the closing. So a much more engaging and interactive format that will be put forward. I think that's the main, so to say, update, apart from, and also again, acknowledging that we are TPCs is the big word of the day. It's planned to be, as you know, urban days, local governments are reflected, or will be, the thematic days will be right in the beginning of COP, which is super exciting. So the 10th and the 11th, and that's also when we will be hosting the ministerial meeting. The 11th will be the big day, which, as a side note, I'm super excited about. 11/11 for SDG 11 is just a great tagline. But we might also see some of the activities, some of the roundtables to be taking place on the 10th. So 10th afternoon potentially, but definitely on the 11th, in case that's already helpful for your planning. Exact times will be confirmed also, depending on the logistics as well. As a last note, and this is linking to the slide here, is we are looking to make sure that we are linking what's happening at the ministerial meeting also into the Cities and Regions Hub, that this place can be an opportunity to bring together ministers, mayors, all of our partners in this hub, that we make sure that the conversations continue there. And we're also working with UNEP and the Global ABC to make sure that the buildings ministerial is also linked and connected into these 4 roundtables and the closing plenary. And that's it. Back to you, Yunus, in case, of course, there's any questions.
Sure. Thanks, Leah. Of course, one of the biggest challenges is how we will navigate the connectivity, the bridging between Rio and Belém. And maybe you heard from Liv, between official COP starting on the 10th, there's also COP Leaders Summit on the 6th and 7th of November. So this unique modality has its own challenges, and one of the biggest weaknesses that we are still not clear about the accommodation situation. There are big discussions going on. We hope this will be settled down soon. So assuming this will be handled out, then the hub, the minister, will be a fantastic demonstration of our leadership. I don't want to continue on that because there is a lot of things beyond our control, and more updates on both also in the hub, the LGMA engagement in the hub agenda and others. Please stay tuned, more to come. I see here one concrete question from Eva from CMR on the UN80. Eva, do you want to raise your question now yourself? Eva, are you still here with us? If not, I know we have
Sorry, Yunus, I think she's there. Eva, can you hear us? I see your hand raised. You can speak now. She's here. Maybe she's typing.
Okay, she's typing. The last couple of seconds or minutes, I mean, we have still some flexibility for 1 or 2 more minutes to go, but if there's any burning question, any missing point, anything that we have ignored, or anything that you have a different opinion, feel free to come based on
Can you
the
hear
time.
me now, Yunus?
Yeah,
Okay,
Perfect.
so okay, thank you. So thanks, Leah, Claudia, and Ilya, and Yunus, as usual, for the useful information. I just had one comment question on the enabling condition on the UN reforms and on the synergies. And I was just wondering, since we don't have a lot of information on where these reforms are leading us to, at least I'm not aware of those piece of information. Maybe this is something we should maybe leave a bit on a standby until we have more information to see how we continue advocating on this, because there's, as you know, Yunus, there's also the Global Task Force, and they deal with more global aspects. And since the EU reform is not going to touch not only climate but other aspects, I'm wondering whether we should maybe just wait a bit until we have further information and then see how we discuss these EU reforms, whether we do it in the LGMA for the climate part, or if we have to move this to the Global Task Force, or if there's like a joint advocacy strategy,
Yeah.
or how to move about.
I hear you, Eva. I hear you, Eva. It's really a question for all of us, but there are some information. I forgot to add here to the Rio Convention process. I think we can underline that this is a process that has to be taken into account. One of the things we can ask for is a better synergy, coordination among those. I mean, there are things that we can ask for, but we also know that there are bigger discussions beyond the climate. So I would suggest that we make the appropriate language that this is not closed or this is not over, but it is just one part of the story. But it would be a pity if we do not address at all. That was my point. That's why let's wait for next week and how much we can make progress there.
Okay, no, of course we need to leave that and discuss it here, but I was just wondering, how we would move, forward. So
Exactly. I would prefer if we have a dual approach, saying that this
okay,
is also a part of it, but it is not all of it.
okay,
That would be a better narrative, I guess.
okay. Thanks a lot.
But we can discuss next week.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I mean, I'm here, I'm open, or others we can hear from others as well.
Yeah, no, and
Carlos.
I think it's good that we also mention it, in our discussions here, and then
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just share any information on climate. Okay, thank you.
definitely. Thanks, Eva.
Thank you.
Carlos, do you have your point?
Yes. No, I wrote my question in the chat, but I'm happy
Okay.
to speak now.
Just summarize here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about the Local Leaders Forum. I'm a bit worried about the representation of the LGMA in the agenda and in the format also. From what I saw, Liv just left. That's a pity. But I mean, we don't only have C40, CLE, and the other two coalition working in the mobilization of mayors and governors. So I don't understand why we don't have an LGMA specific meeting on the organization of the Local Leaders Forum. That's a mobilization of all the networks that are part of the LGMA, and especially because we are all working in the Global Climate Action Agenda, new format, and the framing or tentative framing of new acceleration plans. And we will have LGMA a new positioning by the time also. I mean, there is a complete discontinuity between the two processes. And we used to do the summit with the mayors and governors all together. So I don't really understand why it's going that way. And that we don't share the information and we don't all contribute to the information. That's very worrying for me as an LGMA and FMDV structure. I don't see UCLG, I don't see other networks. I mean, that makes no sense for me.
Dear Carlos, thanks for raising your concern openly and in details. I also noticed Liv has left. We have conveyed some of these in several processes, but I think I hope there's still room for improvement. And as you have heard from Liv, that's not concluded yet. So let's see. But at the end of the day, it was announced as a partnership of Bloomberg Philanthropies and COP30. I assume they will take into account, and if you have heard the announcement, the outcomes will feed into the COP30 negotiations via LGMA. So we are hoping that we will be complementary to each other, but let's see how things will evolve. Maybe we can continue the discussion in the coming days. And thanks for raising this again. I would like to assume that now we have reached to the saturation of our inputs. I know there may be still a lot of points, but the time is limited. I think we can conclude this session is over. If those who are able to join us, feel free to join us in the afternoon, but then we will continue sharing our inputs and updates via email. And then don't forget, we have another round, 27th. It's internal. It will be again on positions, and we can touch some of the topics that I addressed here as well. Many thanks for all your interest and support, and have a nice day to go forward.